Good Tuesday evening, everyone. This is State Representative Brad Halbrook along with a
Uh-oh, we lost Brad.
and Niemerg and
Looks like we lost Brad. Oh well,
Brad,
there
welcome.
we're
we
back.
lost you
Oh,
for a
is he
second. I
back?
don't know if it's the Russians or the Ukrainians, but hey, you could just give us your intro again there, Leader Halbrook.
Well, it's great to be with you all tonight here again with another Tuesday night edition of our Illinois Freedom Caucus Roundtable as I'm joined with Leader Chairman Chris Miller and Leader Representative Niemerg, along with the State Director Colin Mosley. Gentlemen, hopefully we are live and hopefully in demand as this thing moves forward. And so I guess I just want to highlight that tonight's show is brought to you by the new borders is not like the old borders are. And so with that, we got a little bit to talk about. We had a big weekend in Dallas at the the State Freedom Caucus Network event, and then we're going to touch on the Chicago crime. And I know many of you are stunned that we even want to even talk about Chicago crime. But this weekend, we connected with 12 other states and national leaders, congressmen and women from all across the nation, and many other influential people that's in this conservative movement as we came together for the second annual State Freedom Caucus Network Summit in Dallas. As you see here, we got a picture with David Freese and former Chief of Staff and Congressman Mark Meadows and freshman Congressman Brandon Gill, and he seems to have our governor's name and number right on the tip of his tongue, and of course Chip Roy and many others. And with that, Chris, I'm going to just kick it over to you. I know you were a part of a press conference with other state chairmen. Give us your thoughts how the weekend went, and then we'll go to Leader Niemerg for his thoughts.
Well, it was a real blessing to be able to be in Dallas this week with other like-minded elected officials, and there was several Freedom Caucus members were running for statewide office, several for governor, and it's a real blessing to meet men and women that are principled and are statesmen and are not governed by the political winds that blow in various directions, sometimes even swirling, that they knew who they are, they know who they represent, and they're going to stay true to their convictions. And it's just as inspiring to be able to be with such great patriots.
Exactly. Leader Niemerg, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a great weekend, and we were able to meet some very interesting people. Sit down and had breakfast with Mark Meadows, strategize with him for a little while. Talk to Andy Biggs, Chip Roy, Ralph Norman. Andy Biggs and Ralph Norman are running for governor in their respective home states, and then Chip Roy is running for AG there in Texas. So it was really a good weekend, full of really good ideas, camaraderie. Other folks in other states fighting the same thing that we're fighting here in the state of Illinois, and that includes red states and blue states. But we sit on an island here. Sometimes we think when it comes to conservatism here in the state of Illinois, we have a lot at stake here in Illinois. But that happens in other states as well. So it was really nice to be the majority in a room for once. It felt great.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we were a part of some breakout sessions that we were joined with one or two other states for different kind of things. It was great to have that interaction, to kind of have that discussion back and forth about the issues that we face, the issues that they face, whether they're in a deep blue state like Maryland, like Illinois, or some of these deep red states and the battles that they face. The battles we talk often about, the battles that we face in Springfield with the Democrats, but also within our party. But you would think in deep red states like Missouri and others that they're problem free. And that's not necessarily the case, gentlemen. Those deep red states seem to have their share of issues within the party also.
They sure do. They sure do, Brad. And it's important, when we're at events like this to show those deep red states. Democrats here in the state of Illinois, they play for keeps with redistricting, with the bills they pass, with the woke agenda, with the legal immigration. No safety in cities or throughout this entire state. So, the way that we honestly got where we are is Democrats and the radical left, they chip away They come out with a big idea and they say, here's our idea. And they mobilize the media, they mobilize their activists. And then the Democrats and the Republicans, they start fighting over this idea. And the Democrats, the radical left, always say, well, we'll give back a little bit on this idea. We won't take the whole cake, but we just want a slice. And Republicans sometimes say, "Boy, we're ready to, that's we'll take that and we'll move on down the road." But it's never enough for the radical left and the Democrats. They always continue to take that piece of cake until piece of pie, cake, whatever, until the thing's entirely gone. So we've seen that happen in Maryland. We see that happen in Illinois. So being there in Dallas, it was important to tell our red state folks that, hey, listen, if you don't draw a line in the sand against the Democrats, they will keep chipping away at your liberties, and you have to hold the guard, so to speak, and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, very true. Chairman Miller, we had a great Friday night, the opening night. We had the governor of Florida was there. Sorry, I'm kind of grasping here for some reason. We had the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, there. We had the border czar, Tom Homan, and they both spoke for about 40 minutes. And boy, that was worth the price of admission to hear those two gentlemen give their thoughts about the way things were going, not only in Florida, but across the nation.
Absolutely, Brad. That's an excellent point you make. Both of them are very inspiring. Both of them are doing a great job. And I know that Tom Homan said that he was going to roll out his new theme song here coming up shortly. It's "They'll Be Home for Christmas."
Yeah, exactly.
We're looking forward to that release.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So also we had members of the media from across the nation there. We had two members from Illinois that was there with Greg Bishop of In Focus. And then also Jeannie Ives of The Real Story was there, and many, many others, national acclaim. So that was good to have them there. The next night, Saturday night, the closing night, was the awards dinner, awards banquet. And Illinois Freedom Caucus was right up there being nominated for 4 different awards: the best communications, the best state director, and the best floor speech. And with that, Leader Niemerg, we took the hardware home for the best in-session fight. What's your thoughts there as you guys took, or as we all took the podium to accept that award?
Oh, that was it was great. I don't know how many adjectives or what I can come up with to describe what took place there, but it felt really, really good to be recognized for that. I know that it's not all about the awards, but to be recognized for our hard work and dedication to killing the homeschool bill, which we hope is completely dead, but in the state of Illinois, you never know, was really humbling. And I think Colin is going to have that mailed back. That'll go around the Stratton building at the Capitol in each one of our offices. But it was really a collaborative effort with folks in Chicago as well. The coalitions that we built in order to kill that terrible piece of legislation were truly great, because we had a lot of folks there in Chicago, the Black Caucus in Chicago, folks coming down to testify. And then moreover, the homeschool families that showed up in Springfield. It was truly humbling to see those families come in and just pack the Capitol for that committee hearing. They put us in the smallest committee hearing room in Springfield. So all the folks, the families were out in the hallways of the Capitol. And it was really overwhelming to have them there. And they were a big part of making that bill not get across the finish line.
Right, exactly. So these first 3 nominations were the second year we were nominated for that, for Best Communications, Best State Director, Colin Mosley, to your credit. Thank you. You're leading the charge, you're the glue that holds this thing all together. And Leader Chairman Miller, you were nominated for the second year in a row, I believe, on the Best Floor Speech. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And it was stunning for the second year in a row that we didn't bring home the hardware with that. I mean, I'm not sure what else we can do.
Yeah, you would have thought that midnight floor speech on the night of adjournment, that should have taken the cake, and it was a compelling speech. And
we've decided that the best floor speech was tallied by Dominion voting machines.
That could be the only answer.
Yeah, if it was paper ballots, it would have been us, right? So yeah, paper ballots would have been us. Director Mosley, is there anything I'm forgetting here on the weekend in Dallas, Fort Worth area? Is there anything I'm forgetting on this on the Caucus Summit?
No, I think I just want to say, look, there's over a dozen states in the Freedom Caucus Network, and more states coming. The movement is growing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see these awards and these accolades, it's truly an honor because we're competing against the best of conservatives across the country, and so to be up for these awards is truly an honor. Especially, for me, I work with some great people, so the Director Award is nothing to take lightly. But the conservative movement is growing, and it's growing fast, and I can't wait to see what comes next year.
Yeah. It's interesting as I've seen the other the chairman interact, the other directors. Some of them were more vocal and what have you, and I was able to speak to some different ones. Boy, the commitment level they have to the conservative movement in their respective states, and then the conservative movement as a whole as a part of this network, it's just remarkable. With that, let's move on to crime in Chicago. Chris, I know you've been kind of at the lead on some national media over the last few days or weeks about this. Chris, I'll just turn it over to you to kind of give us an update, what you've been doing, what's been going on with the crime situation in Chicago.
Well, it's very interesting because if you listen to our beloved governor and the mayor of the city of Chicago, they continue to gaslight you and say, well, there's no story here. And I mean, there's been, during just the Pritzker administration alone, there have been thousands of murders that take place and probably tens of thousands of shootings. But yet, these guys continue to gaslight the public, pretend like there's no story here. I keep waiting to see Tinkerbell and pixie dust fall from the skies from the fairy tales that they tell. It's almost they ought to begin their press conference with "Once upon a time," rather than having something significant. But it's absolutely stunning to me that they are taking sides with the criminal element of society, taking sides with the illegals, and fighting the most powerful man in the entire world.
Right.
President Trump is saying, I will come in and help you clean up this mess. And J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, and their arrogance, complete arrogance, and their disregard for their people that they represent, they're trying to kneecap him and make that job more difficult. I mean, they have an opportunity to be heroes if they would just step up to the plate, cooperate with President Trump, Tom Homan, and these in the National Guard and all of the above. I would think that citizens of Chicago would really embrace this. And I mean, because let's face it, the primary responsibility is of the governor and of the mayor as leaders up there is to keep their people safe and secure, and not only keep them safe and secure, but let them know that they've done this in such a way that they feel safe and secure, that they're not afraid to walk down to the grocery store, they're not afraid to go to the theater, they're not afraid to be out and about like normal people are. I mean, there are common sense solutions to all this stuff, but the start is going to be cooperating with the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald Trump.
Yeah. Leader Niemerg, it was really interesting to hear Border Czar Tom Homan on Friday night talk about the day that he was in Chicago, how they were able to pick up some really bad dudes off the street and how they made Chicago safer just in one day. I don't know if you remember any of those statistics or not. It was just really stunning what he had done there. And if anybody wants to, they can find that full speech on Bishop on Air. I believe on his YouTube is where you can go to find that. But Adam, any thoughts about the crime, out of control crime in the city?
Yeah, Brad, and I'm glad you brought up Tom Homan's speech, folks. If you have an opportunity, I would take a little bit of time and watch that speech. It was very moving, and I'm still kind of feeling the effects of it. That man truly cares about
Hmm.
this country. He truly cares about children and protecting children and safety and security in this country. His stories that he told, my gosh, were those moving. What happens down at the border? I mean, the drug cartels, what they do to young girls, the sex trafficking. He's trying to track down children. He said that when Donald Trump brought him into his office, first day of this administration, he said, "Do your job, find the kids, find
Hmm.
the kids." And it was just very, very moving to listen to his speech and to just really hear what he's doing. And in Chicago, those folks that he apprehended, I know Colin. We were talking after the speech about getting the numbers and the rap sheets on those individuals because these radical leftists, these true Leninists and Marxists, they're protecting
Hmm.
these criminal illegals that are committing unspeakable acts. They're here illegally,
Hmm.
and we have a city and we have a state that will not cooperate with ICE officials just trying to keep safety and security in our streets. You couple that with the Safety Act, which allows these violent offenders back on the street. So we're dealing with folks here in the state of Illinois, the radical left, that have manufactured this crisis, and they're putting Illinois citizens' safety and security last, not to mention the fact that this is all done on taxpayer expense. So to listen to Tom Homan deliver that message and to see what's happening in Chicago, I was just on X and looking at what's happening in Cicero with some of the ICE raids that are going on today and yesterday. And these folks, honestly, they're just deranged. It's a radical leftist ideology. I don't understand it, but it has to end. People have to be able to walk down the street and be safe. People have to be able to make a living, to be safe and not have illegal immigration. And that's another issue. I talk about the making a living issue. Illegal immigration is driving down working class salaries here in the state of Illinois in this country. That's a whole nother issue, not to mention the tax dollars that are being spent. But you take the Safety Act, you take the safety and security of our communities, and that's all lacking. And lastly, CBS reported just a couple hours ago that Governor Pritzker was meeting with illegal immigrant activist groups this afternoon. Meeting with illegal immigrant activist groups to actively combat Tom Homan and ICE. If that doesn't just put the icing on the cake, I don't know what does. That is putting the safety and security of illegal criminal aliens ahead of those citizens here in the state of Illinois. And Chris, you said, they should start with once upon a time. They should end it with run far, far away.
That's right.
Exactly. Director, is there anything else we need to touch on here before we move on? With that, I'm going to
I
let
would
you talk about a couple of events. Chris?
No, I would just like to mention that the fact that J.B. Pritzker is a security issue here in the state of Illinois and his attitude towards the stopping of all this crime that's going on. And Adam alluded to the fact that this is an economic issue because when you have high crime, you got businesses that are shutting their doors and you got big business that are leaving because they aren't going to do business in a place like this, let alone all of the regulation and the taxation and all of the things that they're doing to stifle business, to hurt families, and to, it's like I've heard you say before that J.B. Pritzker and the Democrat policies are the greatest recruiting for our border states and around in Tennessee and Texas. And it's just incredible because in real time, we have to be competitive with the other states if we want to increase business opportunities here in Illinois, if we want to grow our population. But we have to be competitive in the marketplace, and we aren't going to be competitive when nice homes in Tennessee, the real estate taxes are $2,000 a year, and then nice home in Champaign, Urbana is $12,000 a year with no income tax and school choice. I mean, we're missing the boat because we're making Illinois completely uncompetitive on the stage where what you do and the policies you implement matter because people have a choice on where they're going to live and what they're going to put up with. And I think that we have hit the threshold of the tolerance level on high crime and high taxes and all the things that need to be fixed here in the state of Illinois. And it's high time that we do something about it, and that we can do nothing except messaging until the Democrats, J.B. Pritzker, and the Democrat leadership will admit that they have failed the citizens of Illinois and begin to make decisions based on what's in the best interest of our state.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
We're fired up tonight.
All right, I got a little carried away there.
Let's not forget the fact that Florida, DeSantis is laying out a plan to eliminate property tax.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're still going to have roads and bridges and police and fire and schools. They're going to figure out a way to make it work.
Right.
We could too.
Well,
Brad,
and
what was that? You talked about the size of Florida's budget versus in population versus New York, Brad. Remember?
right. So I think he said that Florida has 4 million more people than New York, and their budget is half of
Right.
what New York is. So they have more population, less budget. There's no income tax. Many other positive things there. I know people will say, well, there's an insurance thing, and but when you build and live on the coast in kind of a hurricane thing, you're going to have some of those things to deal with. But man, that no personal income tax, the property tax is already lower than New York and Illinois. So
I guess you just deal with the pythons and alligators. Low
yeah,
taxes. I mean, a state that it's warm. I get that, but a state with mosquitoes, pythons and alligators is just blowing everybody out of the water.
Well, just don't go in the water. That's the alligator's house, and just
that's
stay
the
out of the
joke,
water.
right?
So
In Illinois, we have abundance of resources. We've been an economic engine for the Midwest. We have great, weather. Right now, I'm sitting outside, and it's just this state could be so great, but it's just lacking in so many ways because of poor public policy.
Right.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Colin, pull that last slide up. I know we got some events. You've been working on some things here this summer and fall. We got some town halls. Run that by us real quick.
Yeah, hey, just exciting things coming up. We're going to be in Senator Chesney's district in Loves Park in the Winnebago area, hanging out with Elevate and Inspire. There's a taco dinner available. It's going to be a good night of freedom, and we're going to do our town hall thing, do a Q&A, talk about what's going on in Springfield and Illinois politics. And then in October, on the 21st, we're going to be in Jed Davis's district doing the same thing, right in the middle of veto session, right between the 2 sessions, 2 weeks of veto session. And then here, I think next Saturday, we're going to be at the Tazewell GOP Women's Brunch as well. So there's some places you can come see us and come hear our presentation and get some Q&A about the conservative angle on Illinois politics.
Right. And if they want to see more about that, Colin, the last slide, I think, has got your web address and the Substack. There you go. Please subscribe to that. Sign on to that. Colin, any last thoughts on that?
No, I mean, just a reminder, again, we're going into, it's going to be veto session before we know it. So just please stay tuned for any updates.
Right. Excellent. Okay. With that, I don't have anything else. I know we've kind of aired a lot of comments here about what's going on. And with that, maybe we'll close out the evening. And as always, we would like you to like and share and subscribe and follow our content to help us overcome the algorithmic gods of the big tech overlords. And with that, let's say good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.